We will now make the spikes. To make the spikes, first chain 3. Next, single crochet into the second chain from the hook. After that, make a half double crochet into the third chain from the hook. And last, chain 1. Repeat the same steps for 8 spikes. If you happen to make 9, that's okay. We will now make the tail wing. For row 1, chain 9. Leave a long tail for sewing. For row 2, single crochet across, starting at the second chain from the hook. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. You should have a total of 8 single crochets. For row 3, increase, then do 6 single crochets. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. You should have a total of 8 single crochets. For row 4, single crochet across. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. You should still have a total of 8 single crochets. For row 5, make an increase. After that, do 5 single crochets. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. You should now have 7 single crochets. For the last row, row 6, do 3 single crochets. In the end, make a slip stitch and fasten off. This is how the tail wing should look in the end. We will now be making the small wings. For row 1, we will start by chaining 2 and make sure to leave a long tail for sewing. For row 2, single crochet in the second chain from the hook. When you're finished, chain 1 and turn your work. For row 3, increase and then chain 1. When you're finished, turn your work. For row 4, do 2 single crochets. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. For row 5, we will start by making an increase. So that's 1. Okay, now I'm going to make the increase. Okay. After that increase, we will increase again. Okay. So that's 1. That's for the second, increase. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. For row 6, make an increase. After that, make 2 single crochets and then increase again. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. For rows 7 through 8, which is 2 rows, single crochet across. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. Make sure there are 6 single crochets for each row. For row 9, we will increase. After that, we will do 4 single crochets, then increase. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work. This should be about 8 single crochets. For row 10, single crochet across. When completed, chain 1 and turn your work for a total of 8 single crochets. And finally, for the last row, row 11, listen carefully since there will be a few instructions per stitch. Remember, there are 8 stitches right now. For the first stitch, make a single crochet. After that, chain 1 and slip stitch all in the same stitch. For the second stitch, just make a slip stitch. For the third stitch, make a single crochet, chain 1 and slip stitch all in the same stitch. For the fourth stitch, make a slip stitch. And for the fifth stitch, make a slip stitch. For the sixth stitch, do a single crochet, chain 1 and slip stitch in the same stitch. For the seventh stitch, make a slip stitch. And finally, for the eighth stitch, do a single crochet, chain 1 and slip stitch in the same stitch. When completed, fasten off. This is how it should look like by the end of the row. We will now be making the wing arm. Follow the instructions very carefully, otherwise the wing might look different when completed. For round 1, make the magic ring and single crochet around 4. For rounds 2 through 3, which is 2 rounds, single crochet around for a total of 4 in each round. For round 4, single crochet, then increase, then 2 single crochets for a total of 5. For rounds 5 through 6, which is 2 rounds, single crochet around for a total of 5 in each. For round 7, make 2 single crochets, then increase, then 2 single crochets again for a total of 6. For rounds 8 through 17, which is 10 rounds, single crochet around, make sure there are 6 for each round. For round 18, we will do 2 single crochets, then increase, then do 2 single crochets, and then increase for a total of 8 single crochets. For rounds 19 through 21, which is 3 rounds, we will just single crochet around and keep 8 single crochets each. Alright, for the last round, round 22, we will do 2 single crochets, then increase, then 2 single crochets, and then increase, and last 2 single crochets for a total of 10 single crochets. This is how it should look by the end of round 22. Make a slip stitch, fasten off, and leave a tail for sewing. To complete the wing, we will need to take the wing arm, and we're going to start by going to the tip of the wing arm and start with row 1, which is chain 32 from the tip of the wing and stop from there. For row 2, start from the 3rd chain from the hook and do 16 double crochets across. After that, Slip stitch the next 2 . Then after that, chain 2 and churn your work. For row 3, do 16 double crochets across from the second slip stitch. Make sure you leave 1 stitch empty from the previous row. At the end, chain 1 and churn your work. For row 4, do 16 single crochets across slip stitch 2, chain 2, and churn your work. You will repeat row 3 and row 4 every time you do the 2 slip stitches into the chain until the last chain, which should be about a total of 8. Again, after you do 16 single crochets, make a slip stitch for the next 2 chains . After that, chain 2 and turn your work. After you finish crocheting into the chains, this is what your wing should look halfway through. You will repeat row 3 and 4. However, for row 4, instead of slip stitching into the chains, insert your hook into the wing arm and make 2 slip stitches. After that, chain 2 and turn your work. Make sure you keep the slip stitches evenly spaced. You should be able to make a set of 8 or 9 slip stitches. When completed, make a slip stitch and fasten off. Leave a long tail for sewing. This is how the wing should look by the end of the round.